The U.S. export numbers and who is going to buy the U.S. soybean leftovers. Jerry Gidel is ready to assess all of that and more right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we have the very volatile week in the markets. Uh, Corn has ended lower on Friday, but week over week they are still higher than the previous week. And soybeans also very volatile. We had a very massive Chinese purchase from Argentinian soybeans. And in your view, you think that there will be market demand for U.S. soybeans from other players. How is that? How can you explain that?
Well, there's only two places to buy soybeans in the world: South America or the America or U.S. There's not a huge crop of beans somewhere else that's being produced. Protein is king. And at this point, so far, yes, China has ignored the U.S. They are trying to buy as South American as much as they can. They did a heck of a good job this week when the Argentinians dropped their export sales to encourage them to buy Argentinians at this point. And I don't think the key thing is it's a finite supply. And the people that didn't been waiting here on the sidelines to buy beans, either from the U.S. or South America, there's less and less beans in South America to buy. So that means they're going to have to buy U.S. The prices are still very competitive long term, but they're thinking, oh, well, the U.S. soybean harvest is going to have a big impact on price. It's already in some places a buck and a half lower in the northern plains, and that so there's no that people are going to store that bean and sell corn in that situation. That's going to be the reality of the U.S. harvest right now, unless we start to see a bigger demand. And I think the people who have been sitting on the sidelines around the world don't have any alternative. They have to end up looking at U.S. soybeans as their supplies. It may be not as massive as maybe the Chinese might have bought, since they've already bought stuff. And at this point, there was 40 cargoes that supposedly were bought while the Argentinians had dropped their export tax. That's about 2.8 to 3 million metric tons. Very hefty purchase, no doubt about it. And that. And so but the same thing is that those beans aren't available to the rest of the world. You know, there's a lot of other people that buy soybeans and meal from both South America and that over the years, or they're closer on transportation or whatever it is. So guess what? The U.S. is their alternative, and I think that's going to because I don't think that there's a lot of downside incentive uh, for U.S. to be selling anything here, and the farmer point of view. And we'll see what kind of yields we come up with here in October. That's going to be a big factor. But right now, we have some other reports ahead of us.
Yeah, so you think that will bring farmer prices?
That will encourage farmer prices? No.
No,
I,
if that will bring farmer prices.
well, I think right now, the farmer's not selling. The world buyers are sitting on their butt. And at this point, we're going to go along in this thing until we get some incentive, either the smaller crop in the U.S. or a smaller carryover stock for the coming year because of the fact that really at this point we might even have a slightly smaller crop from last year, and we've got a little stronger export. So, you know, right now we're kind of bumping along here at 300 million or less on carryover stock, and that's a pretty tight long-term supply. And so, uh, right at this point, the world is playing an interesting game at this point, trying to look at the U.S. now to be a purchaser, and I don't sense that the producer out there is has any incentive to sell it. And so we're in a situation where uh, USDA numbers here in October could be quite an impact on world buyers here at this point. We could somehow find a bottom in the cash and futures price if we have an unexpected crop size here on October 9th.
So basically, you are seeing a smaller crop in the US for both corn and soybeans.
Yes, the beans, we're not, the corn, we're potentially looking at 2 bushels, maybe as much as 3 bushels down from what we've seen so far. A lot more reports about disease and things like that impacting the yields. And it's really, I can't say that that Indiana, Ohio are areas that are high on that, but anything from Illinois westward, there's definitely been a lot of excuse me, corn rust on the leaves and the impact on the yields. And so at this is not an official number out, and won't be getting that till the end of next week on that. But I would sense that there's at least 2 bushels down, and virtually I think we're going to be at 182 or less, which we're at 186 and a half right now. By the time we get to November. And that's a big difference from 188 that we started with in August.
Yes, so basically, you are seeing those changes. What about South America?
Well, South America is just, they've, at this point at least, I have to agree that Argentina doesn't have any more beans to sell. And at this point, just getting started, we really have been a dry situation in most cases here in the northern areas of Mato Grosso, Goiás, even parts of Mato Grosso do Sul. And so the bean plantings haven't really got off to a roaring start, which isn't not terrible. And things start to get worrisome if you're not there by October 15th. And I'd have to say that there's going to be, right now we're about 1%, supposedly in Russia, excuse me, in Argentina. And so, you know, no. It's actually Brazil, I'm trying to say that we're off to a very slow start. Many times in the past we used to plant 5 to 10% of the beans by mid-September. That isn't the case because in reality they still get a good yield if they get in by October 15th instead. So that's the scenario that the market will be watching. That's going to be a factor to look at this point. The Because we had the big buying of, as I said, nearly 3.5 to 4 million metric tons of beans from Argentina. Actually, the interesting sneaky thing that happened was that India came in and cleared out Argentina's soybean oil volume. So uh, when they had the discounts going on their exports. So I think that's a interesting scenario. Not that the U.S. really, our soybean oil is going to go into renewable diesel here. And so I don't think that's all of a sudden going to create a heavy duty uh, supplies of soybean oil in the U.S. So I kind of feel like the products are still going to hang together. Meal is going to be a difficult one, though. We really pressing a tremendous amount of U.S. crush to actually meet this renewable diesel idea. And at the same time, we're probably going to have to export some of this, and that's maybe the one hang up in this thing in the soybeans is that the meal exports could be a drag on the overall price of beans. If we, all of a sudden that this is say a 52 or less U.S. yield, which is like a buck, 1.5 bushels lower. It might have not as big a bite just because we're going to have to deal with this crush in the U.S.
All right, so what do you expect for the short term for the next week?
Well, it all depends a lot on what happens with our uh, excuse me, the September 30th numbers. It's a tricky one because it's kind of the total on the ending stocks for beans and corn are dependent upon what looks like some very good exports at the end of the season that likely boosted Well, beans at least they went up 10 million last month. They're going to go up at least 8 to 10 million more. And then on the crush side, another scenario that looks like that's going to be up about 18 million worth of demand. And I kind of feel like that we could end up seeing the U.S. production number being down 15 to 18. So all of a sudden here we're going to have a number on the old crop beans that was 325 down at a number around 297, 298. From there, it's going to be the factor. Then we're going to really zero in on this report's going to have a 1 day or less recovery on things. On the corn side, the similar situation. I'm kind of looking for a stronger exports by about 20 from what we got in the last of the month here. Ethanol production could slip another 10 just because we are definitely utilizing the sorghum in the Southwest. And so they've already taken off, geez, I think a total of 60 million in the last 2 months on that. But then on the from there. And the export numbers, I think, are up 20. So overall, as I said, we might slip the old crop carryover down to 1.3, excuse me, 1.295, down 30 million on this whole thing. It's done from there. Then after that, we'll be zeroing in on the crop size. That will be on the 9th of October. So from there, weather-wise, this coming week, it looks like another wide open week here. Uh, I think with that kind of scenario, I think a lot of people are gonna continue to be moving ahead, but they're not gonna go crazy here. They're gonna see if they can cheapen up their costs by waiting to harvest things. That's what happened last week on our numbers. We had some rains in the Western Corn Belt this last week, and that but it was really open from Tuesday or Wednesday on. So I kind of feel like that we're going to have a respectable increase in export, excuse me, in crush in U.S. harvest between last week and this week, but it's still not going to go crazy because they're going to try to take advantage of natural drying versus artificial drying. And so I kind of feel it's going to be 1 day up after the report, maybe, and then we'll sit back going back and forth here. But we'll continue to hear what's going on in the country at this point. And so far, at least, the yields from Illinois West have been up and down and not as consistent as some of the optimism was earlier in the year. So that will probably be the case. I'm kind of anticipating some of the recent fall lows and things like that holding together. But beans are right there above that 990 zone on November. And there's somehow or other we get some disappointing news along the way that knock it through there. We could put more pressure on it, but it's going to be crazy because at this point, uh, the yes, the world is anticipating the fact that China is not going to be a buyer, but there's a whole bunch of other people out here that still need to buy something. So I'm anticipating them to be here, but I guess that is the big question. How long can they hold their breath on buying new crop beans from the rest of the world that haven't bought their stuff because China has wiped out the bean supply in so many places in the world, in both Brazil and Argentina.
All right, we'll see. Thank you very much.
You bet. Take care, and we'll see what we got reports on Tuesday, and then we'll start a week on Friday, I think, is on the 9th for the next batch. So lots of numbers.
All right, bye.